welcome to the podcast with Ray and Jay. So, yes, welcome back to our podcast, guys. Thank you. I lost my thought there for a moment. Thank you so much for all the feedback that we've received from the first episode.
Yeah, it was really nice to hear from you guys, and it was, all valuable feedback. And we really appreciate that you took some time to tell us what you liked and how we were able to add some value to your life. I must say, even me, I listened to the podcast quite some time, like several times, and even me, I learned a lot by listening to it again. So yeah, we are in the same boat.
We didn't expect all the positivity that came our way and all the support. So really from the bottom of our hearts, we thank you. This podcast is something that we've been wanting to do for quite some time. Yeah. It's just that I don't know what we needed.
Life
happened. But anyway, all I can say is now it's here. So we appreciate all the support. So
thank you for joining us on the couch.
On the couch again, of course. So yes, with the first episode, I was meant to ask Jacques a couple of questions, but the first question became the whole podcast because we are very good at expanding in our conversations. But there were a lot of things that we mentioned in the previous podcast that we maybe just wanted to talk about again, because it's something that we really do talk about a lot. And so I'm going to phrase it again in a question just to get the conversation going. But it's about life, and this is about, or this segment, this is more about getting to know who we are. So you'll get a glimpse of who we are as we answer the question today and in future podcasts.
Yeah, we swear with our right hand on the Bible.
Our right hand on the Bible. You know that song? Right hand on the Bible. Okay, anyway, it's a Beyonce song. I know you don't like Beyonce. Anyway, so the question that I want to ask you is, I want to know, what are your thoughts around, you mentioned something in the previous podcast where you said that, we are so tainted by the absence of life. That statement in itself is like a loaded statement. We are tainted by the absence of life. And I think that you said that around, fear and the mindsets that we hold and things like that. So, let's talk a bit about that. Like, what is the absence of life, and how have you seen, or how have you experienced, this taintment, a word? Taintation.
We can make it a word.
Tainterization. Yes. What is the effect of being tainted by the absence of life? How do you see it in your reality, in your world, when you look around you? What is it that is the result of being tainted by the absence of life?
Well, thank you for that wonderful question, and it's something very dear to my heart, actually. And we are all actually very much affected by this absence of life. And we call it death. It's what we call it, death. Yeah, when there's no more life in the body, right? And most of our days we worry about these things, or this thing, and unknowingly we live our lives in fear of it. We wake up in the morning prepare ourselves for work. We, get dressed and everything, and then we get into the car. But before we get into the car, we check the tires. For those who are responsible drivers, we check we check the tires. We check if anything is underneath the car. We check the fuel. We check all these things, right?
And if you are living in a standalone house, you're also looking outside the gate.
Yeah, if there's any perpetrators or people, outside wanting to harm you.
Yeah.
But unknowingly, these are the things we do, not knowing why we do it. Or for most, we know why we do it, because we want to protect ourselves and make sure everything goes smoothly. Right? But in essence, all of this is because of the fear that has been deeply rooted in us. That of death. So we get into the car, we start the car, we drive, right? On the road, what is the one thing we don't want to be in? It's an accident. Why? Because it can cost our lives. So we drive safely for those who are responsible drivers. And if you get up late and you are late for work and you are listening to this podcast, can I ask you, please don't be a beep on the road.
A donkey.
Please drive safe.
Yeah.
Be considerate of the next person, because that person too has family and people that they are going out to provide for. So let's not be selfish, but let's think about it. Let's drive safe. It's your fault that you're late.
That's
so
true.
you driving faster is not gonna get you there faster.
In fact, it's so funny, like when I used to drive from here to Claremont, and I'd be in the fast lane and I'm driving at 120, and there's like someone behind me who's now upset and on my butt, basically, because I'm apparently driving too slow, and then they speed and they overtake me and they they give me a look, and then they drive off, and then like 15 minutes later I'm overtaking them at the same speed I was driving, and I'm like, sometimes I feel like waving and be like, hi. So how did that work out for you today? Okay, but anyway, that's a side note.
Yeah, so like all of this, like these things, right? Like, just be careful on the road. Number one, because it's your fault for being late, but it's not the end of the world. I promise you.
Yeah.
Enjoy the fact that you're gonna have to sign a written warning. It's okay. At least you know that tonight when you get home, you are able to talk to your spouse or whoever is waiting for you about it, because tomorrow's another day. So we live our life in fear of so many things.
Yeah.
But the greatest fear that is driving us on a day-to-day is death.
That's true.
So the absence of life, right, is the thing that we have been tainted by. And think about it. When people get to the age where they are now preparing to retire, what are the things that they put in place to make sure everything is settled, everything is good?
It's like the funeral cover, there's
life
insurance.
cover, all these things, because the idea of living beyond the average age is not a possibility in the mind of the average person.
That's true.
But death is.
But yeah.
Was this always the case?
On that note, before you expand, like I think something that's very interesting to also note, like you mentioned a bit earlier about how this like death is ingrained in us. But when I was pregnant and we were doing our research, we realized that you pass on in your DNA. There's a lot that you pass on, a lot more that you pass on than you would hope.
Appearances.
Yes, it's not just the physical that you pass on. You pass on like your anxieties, traumas you can pass on as well, and
experiences.
That's also why when you look around at people our age who, I'm going to use an example that's specific to our country, like apartheid. You get people our age who never even saw this concept play out, and they are filled with so much anger, and they don't understand why. Like, where does all this anger come from, or all this anxiety come from? And their parents were the ones who actually had that anger that they didn't work through, or that anxiety that they didn't work through, or maybe the mom who was carrying the child had, trauma, and now it was, passed onto the child. So, that's also one aspect of the sort of this learned disposition of constantly having death on the mind. And it's funny how everything that's a norm, and we talk about this a lot, everything that's a norm that we do on a daily basis and that we don't enjoy, it's like, it's because it's devoid of life, this, like the routines that we subscribe to, the things that we do on a daily basis, like you mentioned, waking up, going to work. Like, I know more people who really don't want to get up and go to work than those who do, to be honest. Yeah. But again, it's the fear of, because you can change your routine, but we're too afraid. What will happen if I don't have a job? Will I be homeless? Will I have nothing to eat? And that in a world that has more possibilities than has ever been in all of existence. Yeah. And still we're so fearful, and we're so, stuck to the norms that make us anxious and that make us, not really experience life. Like, if you think about it, the person who's going to work every day, we spend more or less 10 hours at work. Like, this includes the commute to and from work, right? And then we're home for 5 hours maybe before we sleep. And then we do this 5 days a week. We get 2 days of a weekend to live.
Do you really?
But now that's the thing. Because what are you doing on the weekend? Probably doing groceries, admin, going to visit your mom, your dad, tending to everyone else, going to funerals. So when do you actually live your life?
And what does that mean?
And what does it mean?
Yeah. So, all these things are things that we need to think about, and things that we kind of have to address, because at the end of the day, what are you imparting into the people that you engage with? Like, how are you adding value? How are you promoting life? And all of this is because we don't understand the power that our mindsets have, the things that we have been taught, our ideologies, right? And for most of us, we grew up in households where things were ingrained in us that we somehow find very difficult to unlearn, and the absence of life is one of them. I have a 13-year-old brother that speaks about death so often, and it's a norm at this age. And for me, I find it very funny, because, or not funny, but concerning, because the first time I experienced death was when my great-grandmother passed. And I was around the ages, I think I was 11 when she passed. And I can't remember if I was able to conceptualize everything. But all I knew, it wasn't even a sad event for me. Because before then, it was never a topic. But I know I kind of felt a lot of guilt. Because I felt like I caused her to die. But that wasn't the case. And then the reality of death kicked in. But I was raised in a house where we didn't really promote or speak a lot about it, but we got a lot of that kind of news. And we had the option as kids not to go. So we didn't. So we were never in that space. But then we just came from a time right now, very recently, where it was so prevalent. It happened so regularly.
Yeah.
Death in numbers, massive numbers with the pandemic. And I think the fear of it even increased even more, to the point where people are now confined in their houses. So fearful of engaging with the world. So fearful of what are people stirring up outside? What are they doing? What are they planning? Why is it that I feel like I can't trust anyone? Because everyone is out to take my life, kind of thing.
If I can ask you, what do you think are the spoken of effects of COVID? Like, now that you're mentioning COVID happened, and while COVID was, while we were in the period, so many people were resolved on, after this we will make sure that we never go back, to life the way it was, and blah blah blah. But now, a few years post COVID, we're doing the exact same thing that we said we wouldn't do. And we haven't even addressed the effects of what did COVID do to us as humanity. What do you think is, like, what did it do to us? Like,
I think what COVID did to the common human, that's dwelling on this earth today, was it made us realize how precious life is, and how fleeting it is, how we kind of have no control over it, and that there's so much power outside of our hands, and that our day-to-day is but grace. And I think a lot of people realize that they have to do more.
I'm one of those people.
Yeah, they have to do more in the 5 hours that they have. So people started doing more.
Yeah.
Because of the fear of death again.
So actually, it seems that the fear of death is pushing us or propelling us to change, like, the norms that we once accepted. Because I'm just thinking now for myself, like, we recently had those hectic floods in Cape Town, and we were away in Franschhoek over that weekend. And for those of you in the Western Cape, you would know that Franschhoek was one of the, like, heavily affected areas with the floods. So on the day we were supposed to come back home, we actually couldn't leave the little town. And I remember us checking out and driving, and the water being, like, insanely high and basically approaching our windows. And in the moment, both of us, I could see that the both of us were worried, but we were both not saying anything because we were trying to navigate that time. And luckily we were able to go back to the Airbnb after trying to find a way out. And even the stay, that extra day at the Airbnb, we did our best to be jolly. We spent time with each other, but after the aftermath, when the sun was shining and we were home and everything, I really thought to myself, my goodness, am I really going to look back at my life and see that 25 years I was waking up and going to work 8 to 5 days a week? Is that the sum of my life? You know what I mean? Is that really the sum of my life? Is that really what I like, the most meaningful use of my time? And I'm not saying it's not meaningful to help someone to build or grow their business in that way, as an employee. But for me, who has all this creativity, I mean, I make music, I write, I enjoy cooking, I'm really good at making house and taking care of my family. Those are things that I can personally say I excel at those things.
Yeah.
But there's so little time for me to do that, and I think that also highlighted to me how, even though I myself, as someone who believes in God, someone who considers himself a follower of the teachings of Jesus, even though it's as clear as day, how we need to transform our minds, right, towards life, because God is life and God is a light, and there's no, death in God. Even though I'm supposed to resemble him, I am still so full of doubt and anxiety and fear and thoughts of death, So for me, that was a wake-up call to say, what am I going to do differently? Because I don't want to be someone who was shaken in one moment and then tomorrow it's forgotten and I'm back in the same cycle of trying to dodge death, because that's what it is. We're just basically dodging death, or trying, because it's not in our power to decide whether we're going to live or die. Like you said, it's grace. So instead of dodging death, what am I going to do today to embrace life?
Yeah. And I think a lot of us find ourselves, in that same boat, but not really being able to come up with an answer, because what else can we do? How do we find life? How do we conjure up life? How do we produce life? Where's the tree of life? So that we can eat from this tree and live forever. Where is it? And these are the kinds of things that drive us, but we don't even think about them in depth. Why is this the way? Why do we live our lives like this? In fear of this one thing that inevitably is the faith of all men.
The fate.
Yeah. F-A-T-E.
Yeah.
Of all men.
Yes. I know you mean fate.
Yeah. And then we find ourselves trying to silence out that thought, because we can't face the reality. And we tell ourselves that death is normal. If it was so normal, why are we never joyful when it happens?
Yeah.
Why is it such a sad occasion when we lose someone that we love? And I'm saying this like this because I know there's many people that don't investigate, these things.
Yeah.
Right? But I don't want to say challenge you, but I want to kind of engage with you and tell you, what are you doing? Because if this is something that you fear and something that you feel shouldn't happen, what are you doing to cap it?
Yeah.
Because you need to do something. Why are you just sitting around like a buck waiting to be devoured by the lion?
Yeah.
What can you do? And it comes back to understanding my existence. Why am I here? Am I here because I need to be here for a short time and then not exist anymore? Why have I been called to exist? And in a time like this, these are the kind of questions you have to ask yourself.
And I think what a lot of people don't think about is, like, God is not cruel. Why would He give us a life just for it to run out? You know what I mean? Like, that sounds, that's a bit of a, it's cruel, like giving someone life and being like, okay, cool, I'm putting a timer on it. It's gonna run out in 80 years. But we don't think beyond what we've been born into. We were born into a certain way of life, and we were taught, okay, this is what must happen, and we must live and we must die. But even the people who taught you that haven't been around long enough to be able to verify that that's actually the way life is meant to go. But only God can say, hey, I mean, I'm sure all people who've read the Bible have noticed that, God didn't create death. Death was a consequence of sin,
Yeah.
But not enough people are intrigued or curious enough to find out now, how do we resolve this issue if that's the issue that took life away?
Because we've been sold the story that death is the portal to heaven.
But now then the question is, then why is no one rushing to die?
Yeah.
If death leads to heaven and heaven is paradise, why are we still wanting to enjoy where we are?
Yeah.
And if heaven is paradise, then where are we?
Yeah. But now are we promoting suicide?
No. I'm just definitely not. That's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is we need to test our logic, because we've accepted many, sayings, and we've accepted many teachings without thought, like thoughtlessly accepted certain things.
Yeah.
But if you investigate those things, you might find that there's a loophole. Something is missing. Something is not being explained.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, it's because of this absence of life, because of the prevalence of fear, that all these beliefs even came to be.
Yeah. Yeah, sorry to cut you.
No, that's fine.
But it's also because we don't understand our existence.
Exactly.
We claim that our, what do they call it? Our purpose, is it purpose?
What did you want to say?
Our purpose is to be an accountant, or what is the thing?
Yeah, it is purpose.
My purpose is to be an accountant. My purpose is to be a swimmer. My purpose is. Do they call it purpose?
It is called my calling. My
calling and my purpose is all these things,
rooted in emotion.
Where did you get that idea from?
Yeah.
Like, and that's the thing. It's like when the spoon tells me I'm supposed to be used as a key to open the door. That's what we are doing.
We actually look very silly to God, like telling the Creator what we actually made for, even though He's the one who made us.
Yeah, like, how is it that I, without the authority and understanding of my existence, can claim that this is my purpose boldly?
Without evidence to back it.
Without evidence to back it. That's why I'm saying that it starts with understanding my existence, because when I understand my existence, I can then fight against the narrative of this thing called death, the absence of life, because then I will understand my true purpose, which is from my Creator.
Yeah.
And not from me to my Creator. Oh God, I'm supposed to be a singer. Oh God, I'm supposed to play guitar in church. How can you tell your Maker what your purpose is supposed to be when He is the author of your life? And like I said previously, in the previous podcast, we are characters. We are not the main character. I know in our heart of hearts we want to be the main character, but we are not. We are the sons and daughters of the main character. Therefore, it would be better for us to understand who the main character is and his characteristics, so that we can live in the image and likeness of that character, so that we can also have the outcome of the character. Because how can we call ourselves sons of God and daughters of God, but our characteristics are so different?
To God, different to God.
Different to God. God is eternal. We are mortal.
Yeah.
How are we in likeness of God?
God is full of life. We die.
We die. And why would God allow a tree that bears fruit physically to live longer than a human being, which He says is just a little lower than an angel but great?
Now, these are the things that I hope the listeners will
think
really
about,
ponder and consider. And maybe this might be a bit like heavy for you. These are conversations that we have regularly, Jacques and myself, but we really do hope that you can take some value out of it. And let us know where you are on your journey of living, like truly living. I don't know if there's anything that you could leave with the listeners, like what now that they know, that there's much to be considered about the life that they're living. What now?
The idea of YOLO is not a thing. It's not a thing. What does it mean?
What do you mean by that?
YOLO. You only live once. And then what? Like, you only live once. So what must you do then? It's more a motivation to stay in life, to live, than to waste the life that you have. But think about it and really ponder upon it. Why are you so sad at funerals if this is natural? And all of us are touched by it. So, engage with us and tell us what's your thoughts around this topic. And I really hope we are not too gloomy.
Yeah, this is a bit of a gloomy topic.
Yeah, but I want to encourage you, because the moment you start thinking and allowing yourself to think about these things, I'm sure you'll get answers.
Yeah.
But it starts with you understanding your existence and who you truly are in relations with God. Because if God is truly your Father, you should have His DNA. That's all from me.
That's all from us. Until next time.